The air in that house tasted like secrets, thick, bitter, like ash from a fire that never stopped burning. I stood at the edge of the dining room, my pulse hammering, staring at a table set for betrayal. My name is Mara Voss, the daughter they tried to bury, the shadow they thought they'd erased. But tonight, under the flicker of a crystal chandelier, I wasn't just their forgotten child. I was the storm they never saw coming. It was New Year's Eve, the kind of night where the world pretends it fresh starts, but in the Voss estate, time only sharpened old knives. The dining room smelled of rosemary and red wine, but the warmth was a lie. My sister Clara sat at the head of the table, her silk dress catching the light like armor. She was all polished smiles, her voice smooth as glass, but her eyes, they were wolves circling. My parents, Gerald and Elise, flanked her, their faces carved from years of loyalty to her ambition. And me? I was the ghost at the table, the one they'd written out of the family script years ago. I clutched the folder in my lap, its leather edges biting into my palms. Inside was the truth, a truth I'd spent 3 years stitching together in the dark. Clara raised her glass, the clink echoing like a gavel. "To new beginnings," she said, her gaze sliding to me, "and to letting go of what no longer serves us." The words were a blade, aimed at my heart. She meant me. The room tightened, every breath a countdown. Clara leaned forward, her voice syrupy with pity. "Mara, we've decided to sell the estate. It's time for you to find your own path, somewhere else." My father nodded, his hands folded like a judge delivering a verdict. "It's for the best, Mara. Clara's taking over the family trust. She's earned it." Earned it? I wanted to laugh, but my throat was dry. Clara, who'd clawed her way to the top of Voss Enterprises by marrying a man with more money than morals. Clara, who'd turned our family's legacy into her personal empire. I glanced at Nora, the housekeeper, who'd been with us for decades. Her eyes met mine, sharp with knowing. She'd seen every crack in this family, every lie polished to look like love. I set my fork down, the clink louder than it should have been. "Sell the estate," I said, my voice steady but low, like a match waiting to catch. Funny. I thought ownership required a deed. Clara's smile flickered, just for a second. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her tone still sweet, but there was a tremor beneath it. I slid the folder onto the table, the leather slapping the wood like a gunshot. "This," I said, "is the deed to the Voss estate, purchased 2 years ago by a company called Solace Holdings." My father's brow furrowed. "A shell company," he said, dismissive. "Who's behind it?" I leaned forward, my voice a blade of its own. "Me." The room froze, the chandelier's light fracturing across Clara's pale face. "You're lying," she hissed, but her voice cracked, betraying her. I opened the folder, deliberate, letting the rustle of paper fill the silence. "Transfer documents," I said, sliding them across. "Escrow records, notarized, time-stamped, legal. When your trust defaulted after Clara's stock market gamble tanked, the bank was happy to sell. Quietly. To me." My mother's wine glass trembled in her hand. "Mara, how could you? How could I?" I cut her off, my voice rising like a tide. "How could you let Clara siphon millions from the family trust to cover her husband's debts? How could you sign off on forged documents that cut me out of my own inheritance?" I pulled out another page, this one a bank statement. "Here's the proof. Wire transfers to offshore accounts, all tied to Clara's new empire. Dates, amounts, signatures." Clara stood, her chair scraping the floor. You're spying on us? No, I said, locking eyes with her. I'm surviving you. The air was electric now, every word a spark. I reached into the folder again, my fingers brushing a small USB drive. And then there's Aunt Lila, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. The name landed like a bomb. Lila, the aunt who'd raised me when this family wouldn't. Lila, who died under suspicious circumstances, her will rewritten to favor Clara. I placed the drive on the table, its weight heavier than stone. This is hospital footage from the night Lila died. It shows you Clara in her room at 2:17 a.m., papers in your hand, a nurse's testimony about an argument, and Lila's blood work, potassium levels spiked, not from her illness, from something else. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Mara, what are you saying? I'm saying Clara didn't just steal the estate, I said, my voice steady but burning. She silenced the one person who saw through her. Clara's face crumpled, her confidence shattering like glass. You have no proof, she whispered, but it was a plea, not a defense. Oh, I do, I said, standing now, my shadow stretching across the table. Lila's real will, emailed to her lawyer the day before she died. It named me her heir. You buried it, Clara, just like you tried to bury me. My father's voice was a growl. You're tearing this family apart? No, I said, turning to him. You did that when you let her lie, cheat, and erase me. I pulled out my phone, pressed a button. They're here. Clara's eyes widened. Who? Footsteps echoed down the hall. The front door swung open, and 3 figures stepped into the room. 2 detectives, 1 SEC agent, their faces carved from purpose. Clara Voss, Gerald Voss. The lead detective said, You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. Handcuffs clicked. Clara's protest dissolved into silence. My mother sank into her chair, her face a mask of shock. Nora, still by the sideboard, gave me a nod. Quiet, proud. The house was silent after they left, the dining room a graveyard of shattered illusions. My mother stared at me, her voice barely a whisper. Why, Mara? Why go this far? I walked to the window, the moonlight painting the snow outside silver. Because someone had to stop the lies, I said. Not for revenge, for truth. I turned to her. You can go to the lake house. It's paid for. A fresh start. Your choice. Her eyes searched mine, seeing me for the first time in years. I looked at Nora. You're not just staying. You're running this place now. Full title, full pay. Her smile was small but real, like sunlight breaking through clouds. 3 months later, the Voss estate is no longer a monument to greed. It's the Solace Center, a hub for kids who, like me, were told they didn't belong. Classrooms hum where chandeliers once hung. Nora walks the halls with purpose, her name on the door. And me? I live upstairs in a small room with a view of the world I'm rebuilding. Some families build you up, others tear you down. But you can choose to rise, to fight, to reclaim your name. If you've ever been silenced, if you've ever had to fight for your truth, tell me in the comments. What's your story? Hit that subscribe button because this is just the beginning.